Hello, 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 hello. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to another episode of Fictional Character Motivation. I'm your host, Quan, and today we're going to be starting back our usual podcast, our usual film, movie inspiration, encouragement, motivation with 300 on Never Backing Down from Adversity. Hope everyone has a good day, and here we go. This action epic came out in 2006. Summary is in 480 BC. State of war exists between Persia, led by King Xerxes, and Greece. At the Battle of Thermopylae, Leonidas, king of the Greek city Sparta, leads his hard trained 300 soldiers against 1,000 upon 1,000 armies from Persia. First off, if you haven't seen this movie, where have you been? I remember this coming out during my high school, and I went to go see this movie. And it was just an eye opener on so many levels. It was raw, it was exciting, it was epic, it was hardcore. I was completely in awe of this movie and a little bit of the story. But disappointingly, I didn't get one of the messages in the movie until a few years after, and still trying to solidify it to this day, which is what I'm going to talk to you about. Leonidas and 300 went through so much adversity, so many obstacles to prove they will not submit to the man known as King Xerxes. Wave after wave of enemies, rain of arrows that blocked out the sun, enemies coming full speed on horses, armored elephants and rhinos, and so much more. And on top of that, battles that lasted for possibly hours upon hours, days, them facing possible physical exhaustion, having doubts, trying to cope with fallen comrades on the battlefield. They went through it all. And even to the very end, when things got real bleak and it looked like there was no escape, that there was no hope of winning in the battle, no victory. They still managed, Leonidas and the 300, to spite the God King in the face and face adversity head on. So, what can we learn from the Leonidas and the mighty 300? As usual, I have some ideas. This time I have two because I think I've went over some of this before, but I'm gonna go into a little more hardcore. So, first thing I think we can take from the story of Leonidas and the Great 300 is prepare yourself for every scenario. The Spartans were trained since 10 years old all the way to their 30s on combat, war, ethics, and survival. Not saying you have to be that hardcore, but there are things in life, in your life, you can and possibly should be prepared for, and also have a plan to handle. Find out all the things that you are doing, pursuing, rocking, and taking care of. All those things, all those categories, and have a plan and a way of handling every and any issue you come across in those fields, even if it's the worst case scenario. Like for me, how that would probably apply to me is that I'm probably going to be more in depth on how to take care of my own car, on my own. Because, little backstory, upon a couple of the awesome jobs that I do, one of them is delivery driving. And for about a couple years, my car has been kind of signaling that it does not like delivery driving. But I still kind of push her a little bit. So, in order for me to cancel that out, in order for me to prepare for that a little bit more, what my plan is for the new year, and yeah, this is one of my New Year resolutions, but it's pretty much for the plan for the new year, is that I'm able to pretty much turn my garage into a shop to where I can to where I know how to take care of just my car, and maybe someone else's car, my girlfriend's car, but yeah, the plan is to pretty much slowly get the stuff, to get the knowledge on how to fix my car, look at the issues, and how to do it within a certain time frame, so that then when the time comes, I only go to the mechanic shop when it's a really, really bad problem. Which hopefully, with enough maintenance and focus, I should never let it get that way. But we'll see. But that's one of the things that I have to bust, and that's also one of the things that I'll be doing for my resolution. So, number one, prepare yourself for every scenario. And number two, when things get overwhelming, focus on what victory that you can attain at the time, even if it's a small victory. If it gets a little crazy, focus on the battles you think you can win, even if it's small. The Spartans faced almost an unfathomable army that was almost never ending. Like if you've seen the movie, you see that pretty much they kept churning after a platoon of guys and people, and even in the end, they still had like a bunch of people. So, and what kept them going is probably the one victory, the one day they made it. Yeah, they made it at that time. Even it's one victory, small victory. Even if it was a good team execution. Now you gotta think about that, because I also have to go through this too. On a side note, I've been feeling pretty much a good bit of these little podcasts, little YouTube talks that I've been having, and kind of been, as usual, turning the lens to myself and seeing what I can apply as well. Or when I say something, it's like, that connected with me. That kind of hit me in the spot. But if things seem a little bit crazy, things seem overwhelming, if something seems impossible to get through, focus on the small victory. Focus on how you handle yourself during that moment. Focus on what you need to do for the next step. Focus on just making it home even. Focus on just making it through the day. Sometimes as usual, there'll be days where we hit the ground running and everything is just smooth. Like you're in positivity. You got the mental armor on. You got your workout going on. Everything's going smooth, like almost win after win. You're in flow state, all that awesome stuff. And then there are days where you just wake up and you struggle to wake up. And then you kind of struggle to move. You struggle to kind of work out, and every single thing happens to be just becoming an issue. And even from pretty much the worst days, I mean, like we are still in the midst of COVID right now. Even in the worst days, it's just we're fighting one issue after another, and one cautionary tale after another, one warning after another, one close or one problem after another, and all we can do is just focus on the small victories, the positive things that happen. Like I handled that pretty well. I got there in time. I did this. I did that. You gotta focus on that sometimes. It happens. It happens. And oh, I have a third one. And the last one, this is pretty much the bonus one. So the first one, prepare yourself for every scenario. Second, when things get overwhelming, focus on what victory you can attain at that time, at that minute, at that hour, even if it's a small one. And the third one, do some stuff when tired or not feeling well. This goes from self discipline and Goggins, if you know who David Goggins is, his 40% rule. But when you don't feel like doing something, still try to do it. Because that battle also, that helps you win a little bit more in life. I mean, there are, of course, going to be things that you do not want to do. There are things that I do not want to do. And yet, it's in our best interest that even though we may feel tired, we may feel that it may not be the best place for us, or we may not be in the best mindset to do it, that we still have to try to do it because, you know, life can sometimes be tough. And if you do that for some things, eventually it will transfer to other things, which means you may have more energy when you do something the next time that happens than pretty much when it comes around and this will be your first time happening. I highly probably recommend doing some things when you're tired. This is a thing that I have to go through. When terms during COVID, there are times where I was like, to where I literally get off work, working with stuff, and I literally just rush to martial arts class. And there are days where I just be so tired, it's like I don't want to do it, but it's here, and I have to do it. I have to try. Now, granted, there's also some days where it's like I was just so worked up, physically, mentally, or both, to where martial arts class happened. I'm just like, I need to take a me day, and that is completely fine too. But I want to say, balance out the times to where you were tired in doing something a little bit more than the times that you were tired and didn't do something. You want to kind of balance, you want to kind of be a little bit more in the surplus that, okay, I was tired, but I did it. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel like doing it, but I did it. I don't think this is pretty much a good spot or a good time to do this, but I did it. Because those times are going to push you way ahead in some areas. Like there's a such thing as pretty much energy transference from that area to the next area. So keep that in mind. I hope those hit well. So once again, what we learned from the Spartans today is prepare for every situation, every scenario as best as you can. When things get overwhelming, focus on the small victories. Focus on the victories that you can attain, even if it's a small victory. And sometimes try to push yourself, try to do stuff even when you're tired, because that may be needed. Remember during the time, to end off with that, remember during the 300, they were tired. Like, a few days of nothing but fighting. And then, like I said, the last scene, the last part of 300. I don't want to completely spoil it, but at this time, it's just like you should have seen it by now. But pretty much at the last scene on 300, before close to the last scene, you see Leonidas mention just like how after all that time, how heavy some of his equipment was. Like, he's been fighting for days. Him and his crew has been going hard for days. And even through that, he just finally made mentions that, or in his mind mentally, that this armor is a little bit heavy. But like I said, that ending though, that part, or not that ending, that pretty much that last thing that he did, that part that spite the God King's face, was all out from exertion. But it's just like, no, I'm gonna do this because I'm gonna show you that I can still do this. I'm gonna show you No matter what happens, no matter what adversity I face, I'm still boss. Hope you have an awesome day, and deuces.